KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
I told you. Ashley always likes to sneak those mics on before.
Oh, yeah.
Rob, I just got to say one thing. I know you want it.
Oh, my.
Oh, my gosh.
So, Joe.
I tell you what, we are rolling in style these days.
Yes, we
I will tell
truly
you
did
we
have
are.
the limo pick us up Thursday. We went
Oh,
to
my gosh.
the NRG event with HAR, which is Houston Association of Realtors.
Brand new 2014 Lincoln MK. Awesome.
It was really nice.
Awesome.
You know, and a big
Dimensions
shout out.
by Dan.
Yes.
Yes.
Big shout out.
Big
Let me
shout
say
out.
first of all that the driver, just the normal service aspect of what they did was phenomenal. The driver was on it. Every time we stopped, that dude jumped out of the car like lightning, had a red carpet rolled out.
for us.
It
Yep.
was impressive.
I will
but
tell
then
you,
beyond that, we kind of overbooked the limo.
No, Joe. Let's just
Just a
I
little.
think we underbooked it and
You
overused
overbooked
it.
Yeah, by we I mean me.
So we might as well do a shout out to Lucho too.
Yeah,
as well.
so we Dan, the owner of Dimensions by Dan, man, made all kind of juggling maneuvers and got us covered on the limo for the rest of the day. It was awesome. He really took care of us.
You know, and I will tell anybody, if you have an event, if you have a party, if you're getting ready to go somewhere, if you just want to go out in the town with some couples and need a good service, a good limousine company,
Yes.
Dimensions by Dan was absolutely incredible.
It
You
was
mentioned
awesome.
Service was incredible.
Service was
The
awesome.
cleanliness of the vehicle was incredible.
Yep.
Timeliness was absolutely incredible. I mean, everything was just spot on.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yep.
So,
How do you reach them, by the way?
Dimensions by Dan, he's on Facebook, or you can go to dimensionsbydan.com.
Dimensionsbydan.com.
Yes.
So good. Take care. We've got a great show today.
Also,
we
we
absolutely
have
do.
an international show today.
That's it.
I have to give a shout out to our New Zealand audience today. And we have a California audience tuning in. We have an El Salvador audience tuning in. Chris, you have your people
I've
in
always
Mexico.
had Mexico
Venezuela,
and even
Uruguay.
Venezuela. Man, we have got an awesome international show going
I'm
on.
just from Louisiana.
People
I feel
listening
like
from
I
all
left
around
out.
the world.
Good grief. So we have a great show. We're going to talk about getting your financial house in order.
That is correct.
And thanks to our wonderful Gina Devers, introduced me to this lovely lady, which is Elizabeth. And make sure I said this correctly, Landeta.
Yes, Landeta. Thank you.
Landeta.
Landeta.
And so tell us a little bit, for how you got here, how you got in this business. You are a financial planner,
Mm-hmm.
and you do a lot of different financial services. How'd you get here, and how'd you get in that business? And
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me today. This was kind of an out of the blue thing. This
we
week.
do that a lot.
Yes,
Yes.
it is amazing. But I feel so honored. I think that talking a little bit about my story and how I got here. I'm originally from Venezuela, born to Spaniard immigrants, and I moved to the wonderful city of Houston about 14 years ago. And, I came for the American dream like everybody else. Most people take it for granted. When you come from another country, you really appreciate that services actually service you and work. And I came to work and, have my dream come true. But as many other people, you start doing what used to work in your country. Happens that this doesn't work here. It doesn't take you to the other side. So you do the right thing that used to work down there, and rules of engagements are completely different. So one of the things that actually hurt us is that we made all the wrong decisions in a very, very fast pace, just trying to
You got
catch
all those
the bus.
mistakes out of the way then.
Oh yes, and you know what? And you get in the to try to get the bus, and when you get it, it happens to be a bike, and it's going in the opposite direction that your family wants to go to. So frustration and fear paralyze. So either you keep on making mistakes or you don't do that. I found somebody who actually, was kind enough to say, hey, you know what, there's a path that you can follow. Let me just give you some advice and some examples of, what you're doing right and how to empower that to make it even better. And nobody had ever talked to me because I didn't have enough money to play with the big guys. I was very thankful, as an American, I feel that we have wonderful opportunity here to make it regardless where you're coming from. But if you don't know the opportunities there, is as good as it wasn't. So, I started in the financial services industry as a client, as somebody who wanted to learn how to fix their own financial mess, and hoping as a mother and as a wife to have the opportunity to bring my kids into a world where they need fixing. And, that has been our dream from the get-go. And, I see it becoming true. So I fell in love with the crusade that our firm has in No Family Left Behind. I feel that even though we live in the richest country in the world and we have the most opportunity that anybody could ever dream for, most families are left behind because they don't have enough information, because they don't have the right information. Because they keep on taking advice from people that is, in a worse position than they are just because they seem to know more or they talk more lightly about it. So I started in this business with my husband on a part-time basis, and I fell in love, and I left everything else, and this is all I do. I love helping families, showing them options, empowering people, put them in the driver's seat of what their future should look like. Nobody plans to actually fail, but most people failed to plan.
Yes, we've.
Yeah.
So that's how we came to be. And I don't like to be called, a financial advisor. Why? Because for the most part, that means somebody who charts you to tell you how broke you are. And I knew that already. So, I like the fact to be a consultant, to be somebody who will meet with you and add value to whatever you're doing, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
And one of the things that you mentioned right there, and I'll tell this is, I've said this from a long time, is we have a huge financial literacy problem in this country, though. As wealthy as this country is,
I agree.
We have a huge financial literacy issue. And one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is we need to start showing our children, not only as a parent, but also we need to instill it in our education system. We need to show individuals at a young age how to save, how to balance a checkbook, how to do the simple things in life that will lead to a better financial stability as you get older, as you get married, as you start a family, as you buy a home, as you buy a car. It's important to instill those things. We're starting to see a little bit of that with the world's billionaires, in which a lot of them nowadays are going out there and saying, we're not going to give our children this inheritance. We're going to show them how to build their own worth. Well, and it's important.
Something that it's interesting, since we have such a culturally diverse audience today. Something that is, I think, maybe unique in the process of building wealth here, the credit system is a big part of how you build wealth here, and purchasing a home and all that sort of thing. And when we see international people coming in, a lot of times I get referred people in my business who don't necessarily have bad credit, they just have no credit.
Yes.
And they have no concept of what they need to do in order to establish good credit, how to use it, all that sort of thing. So it's an important part of building finances, and obviously that's ties into the real estate show and what we do and all that sort of thing in our industry. It's a critical component. When you being an immigrant,
yes,
into America, what was your experience with that process?
You're totally right, Joe. I mean, when you come to America, it doesn't matter. You can come with $1 million in your bank account, and you don't get to have electricity in your house because you don't have a credit score. And most people don't understand that, because, if you live in South America, credit is not existent, because you cannot afford to take a loan for anything. It's 60%. I mean, forget about it. You just either you have the money or you don't have it.
Well, so and we don't have a credit scoring system either in all Latin America.
You're completely right. It's not existent. So that credit is something that only wealthy people take. So it's not a culturally a concept, the same way that protecting your own life or building wealth for the future. Somebody dies and you call all the families, like, how much you can chip in, and that's it. That's the plan. So, coming from another country, when you come here, it doesn't matter whether you make money, whether you're a professional, you don't have that credit score thingy. and you don't get it, you
Yes.
cannot make it. And most people don't understand the importance of building up that, or how to even.
Yeah.
When
yeah,
people
yeah.
come to you, Elizabeth, and what's typically the most often error in their financial planning? Is it too much purchasing, too much debt, too much?
Well, you just hit it right on the bat. You know,
Everything, all the above.
we were talking about that right before starting the show, Rob. You know, when you come here, you learn to need stuff you didn't know existed before. That's what my mom used to say. May she rest in peace. You know, you learn to need things that you didn't know existed. You learn to pay them with money you have not made yet, because you can. And then you, in order to impress people that don't really care because they're worried by their own stuff.
Yeah.
So you get out on that. I mean, you leave the school system with a mortgage without the house. That's called student loan. So most kids don't know how much or if they ever going to be able to pay. So before they get married, they already have a bunch of debt that they now join together. So it's yours and mine, and it's not for assets, but for debt.
Yes.
So-
You know, and that's
that's
a
a whole-
great point right there, because, you know, one of the things we tell everybody, that financial literacy aspect of things, you know, one of the things that is sinking a lot of individuals that are getting out of college is their student loans.
Yeah,
And so
$60,000,
if you're-
$70,000 in debt.
You know, if you're a
to start
family
with.
out there,
That's
one of
on
the
the
things I
low
suggest
range.
highly, I mean, we started from day one. I mean, talk about financial planning. We started from day one in putting together a 529 plan in our case for our children, right?
Yes.
Now, there's different mechanisms out there. You know, that's the path that we chose, but there's a lot of other ones. But, you know, that's a perfect example from a financial literacy perspective of start planning today to give your children an opportunity to prosper in that future right there without carrying that burden of debt when you get out of school.
Yes.
You know.
Well, you know, these days, I think young people have too much of an understanding of credit.
Yes.
They finance that trip to Paris, you know, on the credit card.
Yes, but they only know the fun part. It's like you put the magic card and it goes boof.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
And
we,
there we go.
we as consumers, we want it, and we want it now.
Exactly.
And we don't know how
instant
to delay gratification.
Is a
Yes.
huge thing. And another mistake that people coming from other countries make is like, okay, I used to have a big house and the big cars back then because I was making this big money. And you come here and you assume that you need to have that before I make enough money to actually, you know, support the lifestyle. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that go implosion. You know, they come here with the money, they pay for a huge house, then they don't make enough money, then they don't have enough assets, and then, you know, they go in bankruptcy or they just lose their home because they're one paycheck literally away from.
But yeah, there's
Well,
a lot of paycheck to paycheck living out there.
I would agree. And the other thing is we have a tendency in this country, and I say this all the time, is to keep up with the Joneses.
Oh, yeah.
That is that's one of the things I tell everybody is, you know, you don't need to keep with anybody else except what you need to do in your life and what makes you happy.
They
You know,
are
keeping
not-
up with somebody
Yeah.
else is the worst way to live your life, because then you're always going to live it behind. You know, you're always
Yes.
going to be that one financial step behind somebody else.
Yeah,
And
you
none
always
of
be
the
in
Johnsons are
shadow.
going to pay your kids' college.
No, none of them are. No, none of it stepped up for me so far.
So,
I agree.
so you get somebody that walks into your office, or you go out to them to greet them, and they have no plan for their financial future. Where would you start them?
Well, first and foremost, you need to have a feeling for what they want. You know,
I
one
want
of the,
money and I want it now.
One of the biggest mistakes, you know, that people make is that, you know, when they meet with a financial planner, is somebody who's going to tell you how much money you have, let me put it to work. The problem is that there's a lot of people that you will encounter that have no money, so they assume that they need no planning. You know, if you ever want to have some money, you definitely need somebody to help you to gather some, or to keep some of the one you're expending already. You know, fix your own house. First, you know what? Make sure that you pay yourself first. Make sure that you pay yourself before you pay the mortgage, before you decide to take that vacation. Make sure that you have enough in your emergency fund before you actually take the credit card. So, because if the credit card goes, that's great. But when you max that thing out and you have an emergency, you still need to pay for it. So, you know, it's creating an emergency fund. It's making sure that the plan is going to work with or without you. You know what? Most people don't have enough protection and they're making gazillions of money and they feel like life is forever. You know what? We don't know when we're going to check out. We don't know when our, you know, visa in this world expires.
Yeah,
Well,
we're kind of coming up a break here.
I
think,
would
Chris.
absolutely agree. You know, we're going to be talking a lot today about keeping your financial house in order. We have some great guests. We have some great commentary. If you want to have a question about financial planning, about financial consulting, about
start?
anything, where to start, give us a call, 800-808-5548. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back.
Madam, with you, my heart won't let my feet do things that they should do. You know what? You're lovely. You know what?
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
Now, we are getting mics on notification. I'm not used to this yet.
Yes.
Ashley
I'm
likes
used
to
to catching us.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, actually.
There you
So,
go. Yeah, extra
well,
brain today.
Joe, you've invited a guest on. I think you ought to make the introduction.
Yeah, you know what? This is a really good friend of mine. We've enjoyed grilling at my house and steaks and all sorts of stuff. Has a tremendous story. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Rodolfo, who didn't bring his lovely wife that I'm still very disappointed about.
Actually, that was really good. You walked in, Rodolfo, how you doing? Where's your wife?
That's the first question that people ask me all the time. Where's your wife? I don't know what that means yet.
That's a great sign of you marrying up then.
Yeah. Hey, Rodolfo, give us a little background, who you are, where you came from, and all that sort of thing. I love your story. I love the application process you tell me about when you come here. You got to share that with us.
Absolutely. No, by the way, guys, thank you for the chance to be and speaking with you guys. I know Joe, and we have a good friendship, good relationship. I know their family, great people, and it's great to be in the radio show. And, of course, Chris, and they are the experts. And Rob, what I can tell about him, they are the experts in their field. So I'm glad to be here with you guys today. So you wanted to know my story about what happened with my application. I'm going to tell you that story, And I'm an economist. I'm a professional. I'm an economist. I'm a financial guy. And I remember coming to the U.S. If you think that I have an accent, there is a reason why I have an accent. And
You're from Louisiana?
I'm from Louisiana. And I'm from El Salvador, by the way. And I remember I come into America because I got a scholarship to go to study in UCLA. And I was studying there and everything. And I got a job offer, and I go to different places because if you're in my country, if you say that you're working at Walmart or Sears, that's a big deal. If you say they're working there. And I remember going there. And I go with my resume there and I say, listen, I'm an economist, I'm a professional, I'm a financial advisor, I'm studying my master's degree in UCLA. The guy says, well, I barely can understand what you're saying right now, but we have a great job for you. So what is it? It's called loss prevention. And I think what I mean, why you mean? Oh, so that means that I'm a financial guy. So that means that I'm gonna be looking at the profit and losses of the company. The guy said, no, you're a security guard. And that's crazy how I started. And then all these things that happen in our life, in our world, in our life. So I heard that we have somebody in the call.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have
we got
somebody
somebody
on
calling
the
in.
line.
We definitely do. We have a caller right now. Bill, how are you doing?
Hey, doing great.
Oh, perfect. Appreciate you calling into the show.
Yeah, I have a question. Yes, it's real estate, and I listened to that. But how's that wealth planning? How do you put your eggs in which basket? How's that process? Can you have that lady explain that? Elizabeth, I think is her name. To explain that.
Hey, Bill, you're on air.
Yeah, he was asking the wealth building process. Do you put all your eggs in one basket? What's your approach on that?
Hey, Bill, thank you for calling. One of the biggest things in America is that you have so many options. So when you talk about, diversification, most people think it's about, where to put your money. And, that actually entails also, how many different ways you have to diversify your risk. And that entails not only money or investment, it also can be, you should have in your portfolio some savings on one side on a fixed side, but you can also have some investment in the real estate property, which actually, carries some value that is going to be growing through the years and potentially can become a source of extra income, in the near future. Most people think when they talk about financial independence that is only about how much money you have in your nest egg. Well, guess what? That nest egg can have properties within it, and that will diversify whatever you're doing. But you should always start from where you are right now, and you should seek professional assistant in anything that you're going to be doing before making a plan, making sure that is a custom-made plan for you that works for your family.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Rodolfo, do you want to chime in on that as well?
Yeah, I remember when I became an economist, I became a professional in corporate finances. I learned how the corporation works their finances and the economy. Then when I started working with the family's wealth was kind of different because there are actually 3 questions that people need to ask themselves when they are planning to with their own family. There is actually what they want to do with their money. Mm-hmm. What is important for them? Mm-hmm. That is the number 1 question that people need to answer to themselves. The second will be when they want to, for example, retire, or when they want to use their money. If they want to use their money, if I have a family who wants to use their money to buy a house, or maybe they want to retire in 10 years. When? A lot of people don't ask that question. They just say, I just want to put my money over there, and I have no idea what am I gonna do with that.
Or if I.
And the last one will be why. A lot of people don't ask us, why do I want to invest my money? What's the reason for it? Do I want to accumulate wealth? Do I want to have an income for life? Do I want to, whatever the reason is, I would say those are the 3 questions that everybody needs to ask: what, when, and why.
And one thing that we could ask is also, the taxable position of your assets, because in this country, you need to know how assets will affect the amount of money that you have accumulated through the years. It's not the same to have $1 million in a savings account that in a real estate property that in a 401k. The money comes out differently, and how long it's going to last also has an impact of how long will you be retired, or if you need to retire in somebody else's house, like your kids, for example, if you don't do proper planning.
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Bill, and I don't know if Bill already hung up there, but we appreciate the call there and hope that answered the question. I know that you both have different expertises and that type of thing, but we got a real estate show going here, and
Go on.
What I'm curious about is for our audience who is maybe considering that purchase of a home, either for the first time or perhaps as an investment strategy, moving up or downsizing, either direction. What are some of the advice you give folks when they're looking at a home purchase, and what's the plan for that?
In the planning for a house, I will ask the same question to the people. When are you planning to buy the house, and start saving for that? In money, similar to exercising. Everybody knows what they need to know if they want to lose weight. Everybody knows that we need to do weights, we need to do diet. Everybody knows. If I keep telling you guys we need to save money, we need to do that. But the problem is that sometimes we don't have the discipline. And what I recommend to majority of families, when majority of people start with a little bit. What we're doing on a study, and they say, majority of people, let's talk about saving money. Let's say I want to have $1 million. Let's say one day I want to have $1 million. Maybe you thought about it before. Maybe one day you say, one day I'm going to become a millionaire, and I want to have $1 million cash. So we did the study, and we say how much money you need to save every month in order to have $1 million. If you want to have $1 million, let's say 40 years from now, let's say I'm 25 years old and I want to have $1 million when I'm 65, I need to save only $286 every month. Imagine that. But imagine the other day I sit down with somebody who was 25 years old and I was telling, hey, you need to save money. If you want to become a millionaire, you need to only save $286. What do you think that he told me? Rodolfo, that's simple. Rodolfo, I wanted to buy a car, or other things.
I want to have fun.
I want to have fun. I forgot about it. Somebody who wants to have $1 million 30 years from now, they need to save only $670 per month. That is getting more difficult. If let's say I want to have $1 million 20 years from now, I need to do almost $1,700. So $1,700 per month. So it's getting more and more difficult. If I want to have $1 million 5 years from now, I need to do $13,000 per month. So my idea is, first you need to know, when do you want to have the money? When do you want to buy a house? And that's what the American dream is. A lot of people, we dream about coming to America or having a place to live and invite our friends, have a barbecue party. That's when I'm gonna call Rob when I finish over here. I need to buy a couple of houses over here in Houston, and I love. The $1 million story is very powerful because we need to know how much and when do we want to have the money.
Another thing, if I might chime in,
Of course you can chime in.
Rodolfo. Oh, I already did, didn't I? So one of the things that, most people, especially coming from other countries where, credit score is an unknown concept, is that you need to understand that you need to build credit. Whether you feel like it or not, the system tells you, what you need to do in order to use the system. Otherwise, the system just rolls you over. So you need to understand how to build credit. You need to know that it's not about getting a ton of debt, but it's getting enough so the bank system believes in you as a responsible person. And the better credit you have, the easier it's going to be for you to get a house, to get a car that you can actually afford to pay. It's different to buy a car when you have no credit, like when I started at 8%, than to buy a car at 2%. Is easier to pay off a house at 2.5 than at 8.9. You can buy it both ways, but how long will it take you to pay for it?
Well, and the one thing, I tell everybody, because I'm in financing, right? So my goal, I love to finance homes. I want, but let me put this out there to everybody, and it's very important. Not everyone is meant for home ownership, right? Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that necessarily it's good for you. Home ownership is definitely something that I think that individuals have to obtain, have to be responsible for.
You're talking blasphemy here.
Exactly, right?
It's a real estate show.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying, though, is there are some people that are not prepared to buy real estate today.
I agree with that.
And they have to get with a correct individual to plan to be able to afford that. One of the things that we've seen in our industry, it's happened, is we have seen that a lot of these changes have happened to allow stronger borrowers to come into the industry, right? And these stronger borrowers are that they're now having to put money down while rates are really good. They're at an all-time low. And, you do have to have skin in the game. And let me tell you, sometimes individuals have to plan to have that skin in the game. So while I want to finance everybody, exactly. Yes. While I want to finance everybody who could possibly get into a home, don't get me wrong, home ownership is not necessarily the best thing at this moment for it to begin with, right?
Rob, I'm going to miss Chris on the show.
Yeah, but what I will tell you, though, is as an investment vehicle going forward.
He had a good run, though,
He had a good run, yeah.
Exactly. What I will tell you from an investment vehicle going forward, it's one of the best investment vehicles you can do over your lifetime.
Well, Ashley's holding up her finger again like that.
We've got some crazy expertise in the studio, but we've got a break coming up.
We do have another break coming up. Again, we are talking about putting your financial house in order. You can reach us at 800-808-5548 with any questions you have about financial planning, about mortgages, about credit, about anything we're talking about, putting your financial house in order. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back. I don't know how long I'm going to be back because I just committed real estate blasphemy, I think, right? But you know what?
In the
my
words of
concept
Donald
is,
Trump.
Don't get me wrong. I want everyone to eventually get into a home, and I want to finance as many as I can. But there are plenty of individuals that, to clarify that unfortunately are just not prepared at this moment. And they come and they do a loan application because they're told, hey, don't spend money on rent, spend money on your home right now. And guess what? I agree, but plan for it. Make sure that you have the financial planning associated with buying a new home.
And Rodolfo, you actually do some events and things like that to help people kind of get in that mindset of getting prepared to buy a home and investment stuff. Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. We like to get the people ready. When I was growing up, I remember my family, going through the divorce and bankruptcy, wanted to all those problems because they didn't plan. And sometimes we buy things that we cannot afford to look good for other people, And for me, it's very important for families to prepare. And now that we're talking about buying houses, debt is very important because how easy is right now to get a credit card? It's sometimes the easiest thing on the world.
It's like candy.
It's like if sometimes we were to accumulate all the credit card offers that we get, it's so easy to get into debt And it's so difficult sometimes to get into debt. So I was doing another study. I was reading and I was analyzing this. Now debt in our world, in our country, is not based on billions anymore. It's based on trillions. And sometimes we don't understand what $1 trillion is. So we're gonna do a game right now. So let's say we're gonna analyze $1 equal 1 second in our life. So 1 million seconds ago. So who knows this? Let me ask you. 1 million seconds ago, how long ago was? Anybody wants to give a good idea?
I know it's 1 million seconds.
1 million. So I'm going to give you the couple weeks. So I'm going to give you the answer for this one. Then we'll work for the other one. Okay. 1 million seconds ago was 12 days ago. Couple weeks. So Joe was very close to the answer. So here's the second question. 1 billion seconds ago. What do you think it was? A billion. If 1 million seconds ago was 12 days ago, what do you think?
1,200 days, 3 years.
3 years? Boy, you're very close. You know what it was? 32 years ago.
32 years.
32 years ago.
I didn't carry the zero.
So 1982. You remember what you were doing 1982? You remember that?
I don't remember what I did last night.
So that was
I can help you.
So that was 1 billion seconds ago. But you know what? 1 trillion seconds ago. You know how long it was? That is a question. 1 trillion seconds ago. It was 32,000 years ago. So that is so we need to learn how not to get into debt in trillions. We need to stop that.
Well, I have a number for the White House that you can call and tell them about that.
Right.
So anyway, talk about the events that you put together and how somebody might come to you and say, look, I want to purchase a house.
Absolutely.
But I'm not ready yet. What we do? Walk us through that.
What we do a financial analysis per family. We sit down with them. We see how much they have in their assets, when do they want to buy a house, and we plan for that. We plan for them to get ready, and when they're ready, to go and look for an expert. Where they can go and buy a house. Like we do something that we call the financial literacy tour, which we're gonna have this coming week. We're gonna have a financial literacy tour over here in Houston in the Marriott Energy Corridor this coming Tuesday, 6:30. And I'm gonna give you the address at the end so we can send everybody. We do financial literacy. We teach families, and there is no charge. The name of our firm is People Helping People, and we believe in that. We believe that other people we need to help between each other, and so we're gonna be having that. We like helping families to prepare for the future.
And you're totally right. I'm sorry to chime in because one of the things about financial literacy is exactly that. I mean, I think that we're in the same crusade, with Transamerica World Financial Group, we also do that. I mean, you know what? Helping, empowering families with the basic concepts that they need to handle in order to put their financial house in order so they can become future, real estate owners. Then they can actually have in their portfolio, the houses and the multifamily homes and the things that most people have as the American dream, but putting their own houses in order so they don't need the help.
Let's talk about something real quick here. This is a hot button for me. It's something that, I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an amazing wife, and nobody wakes up today and says, I think I'm going to go ahead and die.
Yes.
That doesn't just, something you just put on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
It very often catches people by surprise.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Now, this we can tie it into real estate, but it directly has nothing to do with real estate. But talk about life insurance and the minimums of protection, because it drives me nuts when I see a guy that has a wife and kids, and he tells me that he has no life insurance, no protection long term for that family. That is just the craziest thing to me.
Underinsured. They
or
think,
underinsured, exactly.
That $100,000 policy, which is not going to last any time.
I've got a $25,000 policy. Great, that almost covers the casket.
Yes, and Joe, thank you so much for that question, because quite frankly, especially for immigrants, that is an unknown concept. You never plan to die. You plan to live forever. You may not plan to have money to live forever, but you don't plan to die. And sometimes people, not knowing what is enough, think that because somebody sold me an inky-dinky policy of $10,000, well, I have something. Well, you know what? Have you seen medical debt? That can take your house down. So no, the minimum protection that you should have is at least 10 times your income. And that is not to make anybody wealthy. It's just to make sure that your family can keep on going with the personal loss and everything that entails. And if you leave some debt behind, they can take care of that. But there's also a more comprehensive way to actually calculate how good or how bad you are in your protection. And that's called the DIME method. And DIME stands for debt. Why? Because you inherit that little thing from husband to wife, not for kids, not for your parents, but you inherit between husband and wife. So whatever you own, you give. Whatever you owe, you also give away to your wife when you leave. So they still are stuck with the payments. So that's your debt. So your car loans, your student loans, anything that you owe, you need to actually put it there. Then you have, the I stands for income. You know, if you have little kids, did you promise your wife to take care of her until death take you apart, or do you both apart? Your plan is to stay there forever for her. Whether you're there or not, you still have an obligation with those kids. So how many years your family will need to have at least your income or half of it, depending on the case, to actually continue making the mortgage payments? Your kids are going to continue eating whether you're there or not. Your kids are still going to need clothing. And they still need shelter. They might not need the $500,000 house or the three extra classes, curricular activities, but they need to leave until they are ready to actually fend for themselves. So that comes the income part. Then you have the mortgage. The mortgage is the biggest debt that you will ever have in your lifetime until you get student loans. That's the only one that equates to that. So when you go to mortgage, some people put the whole amount, and that will add a few years maybe extra, because the fact that you have the money to pay off the mortgage doesn't mean that next day you go and do that $200,000. You're killing a tax advantage. The only baby that you can write off, for 30 years is your mortgage. But you having the money will give you the peace of mind also. And then E stands for education, but also can put in there, lifestyle. You know what? If you want your kids to go to the school that they choose to, you may not have the money right now to send them to Rice tomorrow. But if I'm not there, believe me, my kid can go to Rice and then can do an MBA in Princeton if she wants to, because that is in my financial plan. That is in my economical value that we calculated to make sure that things will happen with or without me. So that's one big thing, knowing how much is too much or how much is too little. The other big thing is that most people have all their benefits, including life insurance, through their employer. So that is a good thing if you don't have any, but it's a bad thing if you don't know what you're renting your benefits. You know what? If you don't know that you're renting your benefits, the day that your company is no longer in love with you, you're messed up because you don't have anything and your family still need what you have. What if your family, your company switched carriers? That happened here in Houston a few years ago. Very wealthy guy, 7-figure income earner, was dying of cancer, was in the hospital, last days, so to speak. The company decides to change carriers. The only condition that the carrier put down was, okay, you need to work 1 day. The guy was kind of busy dying. He could not unhook and go to the company. He did not get paid. His wife went to Supreme Court and she did not get squat. Why? Because all the benefits for a 7-figure income earner was through the employer, and they had the possibility to just switch. Period.
Oh, wow.
So having and owning life insurance is not the same that having life insurance. Get as much as you can through your employer, but you know what? When your lifestyle changes, when your health changes and you are between jobs, you don't get to have it anymore.
Oh.
And nowadays they're getting more stringent as far as approving you.
So I asked both of you the same question. Do
Yes.
you find that most of your people are underinsured when you...
It's the only 44% of people in America are insured. 56% of people, they don't have any. And
Wow, I didn't realize it was that high.
that high. And I go to an appointment one day in the spring over here in Houston, and I sit down with this family, and they were a young family, and they were not ready. They told me, Rodolfo, because there's one thing that you have an excuse not to buy the life insurance. And this family said, I cannot buy it right now. And okay, let me follow up with you. I'm going to call you next week. And he drives in the 45 freeway. He works in downtown. He makes $80,000 a year. The wife doesn't work. They have 2 kids. They have 2 cars. They have a house. Boom. He passes away. And forget about the emotional side, but how the wife is going to be able to pay for the house. how she's going to be able to pay for it. She doesn't work. She hasn't worked in the last 10 years because she's taking care of the kids. So that is a very emotional story. So I recommend everybody to go and get insured because it's very important.
I try to walk the line between being able to take care of the family long term and my wife wanting to take me out.
Yeah. The minute that you have the kids, you lost that capability.
She watches a lot of those CSI kind of shows,
Yep.
I could probably just disappear and no one would ever suspect anything. So,
we miss you, Joe.
I got to try to keep on the good side of the wife because I've got a fair amount of insurance.
You just ruined it for her, though, because you'd mentioned this on air, so now we all know to suspect
exactly. Exactly.
We're coming up against the break again,
You may
Chris.
come up with your backpack.
we definitely
That's the other
are.
thing. Forget about the barbecue.
We are having a great time talking about putting your financial house in order as usual. We're coming up against a break, but you can always reach us at 800-808-5548. We have one more segment to go, so if you have a question, call in. Otherwise, we're going to keep on talking and having a good time and talking about all the great stuff about putting your financial house in order. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And that's a recipe for making love. It doesn't need sugar, cause it's already sweet. It doesn't need an oven, cause it's got a lot of heat. Just add a dash of kisses to make it all complete. And that's a recipe for making love.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
It's
Mike's
fun,
on. We're once again having our own conversation about
break.
insurance and life insurance and proper investment strategies here.
We got a great brain trust here today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm learning some new stuff. And
Well, that's always when I know it's a fun show, or at least it's good information.
we're having fun. I don't know if
90%
everybody else out
of the
there is
time,
having fun.
I'm totally selfishly motivated when I ask questions because it's something I want to know. So I just figure that if I have the question, I'm sure there's got to be somebody
There's
else
a
out there
lot
with
of
the
parents
question.
that have them
So-
too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about that. We were, talking about kids with the life insurance. I was saying during the break that, I have a mix of whole and life for myself, but each of my kids have a $25,000 whole life policy. And you said you've got some different ideas on that. So why don't you guys chime in on that for our folks out there listening with kids and what's a good strategy with the kids?
As you're talking about your kids, let me talk about mine. One of the things that when you're talking about protection at the beginning, if you don't have any, you should start with term. Why? Because that's the more buck for your money. The more bang for your buck. The thing is that only lasts temporary. So it's like your mortgage. You're going to pay that for 30 years. So if you have 20-year coverage, that means that 20-year and an hour, you're done. Or you're stuck paying way more than you more probably can afford. You can have a policy right now where you're paying $300 a year, and that will become $20,000 a year in 15 years. And you may or may not afford it, depending on what your age is. When you're talking about your kids, you're talking about whole life. Whole life was a concept when it started that actually was the first time that the life insurance industry and the financial industry married together. Why? Because financial sector has always been known for the rate of return, whether the life insurance sector has always been known by the tax advantages. So you marry them together and you have money that is growing with tax advantages, and on top of that will give you some protection.
So first came love and then came marriage?
There you go. So the same thing goes here. So the whole life was a great product, and it's not that it's bad, but it's not the only one when it started. Why? Because, banks were paying you 10% in your savings. I don't know about you, but mine doesn't pay that anymore. So you know what, if you want to know what different options you have, again, talking to a professional makes sense. But talking about, whole life, both my kids have life protection. And most people do like $25,000, and that is good to get started with. You know what? Both my kids had $250,000. And not because I'm planning to make any money, because if something happens to them, because they're beneficial to each other, but because I was thinking planning ahead for them. Right now, they're healthy. Right now, they're good. Right now, I can afford it. I don't know when they are in the age of marriage or whatever, if their health is going to be the same and they're going to be even insurable. So having the opportunity to do something for your kids that will be a legacy for them or for their kids is also a good idea. And there are different kind of, opportunities and products and programs out there that will allow you not only to have, some protection, but also to have the upside potential of your money making up to the 15%, which you will never get in your whole life. And but with a bottom line where the market goes kaboom, minus 50, and you're making maybe 1%. So it's kind of, more sexy than, the earnings tied into whatever savings account ratings you're getting. On top of that, you can stop paying them, which you cannot do with whole life. So there's, knowing what you have available sometimes put you in the better place to actually make more with what you have currently.
Are they sometimes convertible?
Yes. Term life convertible will actually allow you that. Let's get Rodolfo. His insight, please.
Yeah, I like the answer. I love the answer. And, one of the things that I recommend everybody who's listening is, there are different type of financial planners or insurance agents. There are the ones who says, permanent policies are the best in the whole world, and there are the other ones who says, term insurance are the best in the whole world. So what I try to analyze is, sometimes we need to be analytical and seeing, what is the benefit. Both of them, they have advantages and disadvantages. We have the term insurance. You have the advantage, it's going to be inexpensive. It's going to be very accessible. But the disadvantage is only going to last between 5 to 30 years, just to give an example, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we have the permanent. Of course, the disadvantage is going to be more expensive than the other one, but it's going to last forever. So the question that you need to ask is, how long would you like your insurance to last? That will be the question that you need to ask yourself. And, we always like to put this example, buying a term insurance is like renting a house. Mm-hmm. I cannot commit right now to buy a house, but I can only rent, and that's the only thing that I can pay. And I don't want to commit because later on I might go and live in another place. And then we have the permanent policy where it's like buying a house. You want to live in that you want to get a mortgage, you want to stay there for a long period of time. And the other thing that I tell you guys is there are actually 7 reasons why people buy life insurance. And you can add your own reasons, but there are basically 7 reasons why people buy life insurance. Number 1 is to provide burial expenses, funeral expenses. A lot of people, they buy insurance to provide that. Number 2, people buy life insurance to protect against their mortgage loan. Other people buy life insurance to pay college tuition. In case of something happened to me, my kids, when they are kids, they can go to school if something happened to me. The other one, a lot of people, they leave money to charity. It's amazing how they want to leave a legacy to their churches. They want to leave a legacy to their place at the charity, The number 5 is pay for taxes. Number 5 is income replacement. If something happened to me, at least my income is replaced. And the last one is pay off debt. So what I would recommend, go sit down with an expert. They know, like, for example, if I want to know about real estate, I'm going to go and talk to Rob. If I want to know about mortgages, I want to go and talk to Chris. If I want to learn about credit repair, I want to go and talk to Joe. So my recommendation is go and talk to these people who are the experts in their field.
Good advice.
I totally agree.
We often
I
talk
always
about that.
like that.
And we're gonna send them that check for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
later.
anytime somebody can work in a shameless plug, I'm a big fan.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
but what he said, though, is extremely right, though, because one of the things we tell everybody all the time is get with a professional,
Yes.
and we tell everybody, in fact, Rob and I talk about this a lot, is if you walk up with somebody and they say they can do everything, then they're a master of none, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, you want to get with people that are specific in their profession and that know that profession very well, because that way you're going to get the best advice within that fiefdom of their information. And if you share that and you get a lot of other individuals who have that same fiefdom of information within their own areas, you're that much better off.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And one of the other things I always find out, especially with people buying the homes for the first time, they've never had assets, so they never had a will.
Yes.
Right.
And one of the first things I tell people is, you've got an asset now.
Yes.
What do you want to have happen to it if something happens to you?
Yes.
And I don't know if we have any stats on who doesn't have a will out there, but I bet the numbers are staggering.
Scary.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very important. We need to leave a legacy, to know what is going to happen. And, we have all this, I remember in California, we have all the state taxes. If we see the news, we see all these actors and actresses having to pay all this money because they didn't have a will. Can you believe that? Those wealthy people, they don't have a will. And so, yes, go and sit down with an expert, and so they can give you more advice in that.
And forget about assets. Do you have kids?
Exactly.
You know what? This system don't allow you to. Oh, I leave them to my mom, and they will take care of her. If you don't have a will and you don't have, custody document, and notarize, your kids go to the system, go to Child Protection Services the minute you kick it.
I always tell people, if you
It
don't have a
doesn't
will,
matter.
the state of Texas will write one for you.
Yes, they
And
will.
they will, 'cause
and most
called
people isn't
probate.
aware of
It's
that.
called probate, exactly.
Yes.
So it's a very important asset. So let's go back to talking about getting ready to get, down payment, preparing for that. Either one of you want to field this question? Someone walks in, they have very little money, but you know what? I want a house in 3 years. What are you going to tell them?
You need to create a bucket for that. You need to create. I mean, that's part of your plan. You know what? As Rodolfo mentioned before, you have to know what it is that you want, and depending on what you want, the professional you will sit with will customize a plan for you to do that. So let's say you want to buy a house in, I don't know, 5 years or in 3 years. Okay, how much do you want to put on down payment? How big of a house do you want to buy? You want to buy, a condo? You want to buy a $50,000 unit? You want to buy $300,000? It's different. Are you planning to put a down payment? Do you plan to put at least, 20% so you don't need to pay for PMI or not? What it is that you want, and you then start a budget on that, and that's part of your payments. That's part of your monthly thing. Every month, you need to save for that before you make any other expenses.
Pay yourself first, right? Is that pretty much what
Always.
you give advice on?
Pay yourself first.
Absolutely, and it's to be honest, guys, sometimes it's not easy to save money. But if you have a goal, if you want to buy a house, go and make the budget. It's not easy today in the morning. I didn't want to wake up to go and exercise. It's not easy to go.
Be broke either.
It's not easy to do that.
Very
But I recommend everybody to start saving money. And if your goal is to buy a house, start saving money from that. And if your goal is to get out of debt, it's going to require to get out of debt. It's going to create a lot of discipline from you guys and from everybody. But you know what? The rewards, when you're going to your house and you say, man, I can afford to do this. I don't have problem buying the house. What? Another thing that I recommend to people is, let's say I want to buy a house and I need to save, let's say, $1,000 a month. And in order for me to buy a house and to get ready in a year from now or 2 years from now. Why? A lot of us, we need to maybe look for another alternative. Maybe going to have an extra business, an extra income, an extra, whatever it is. Maybe I can learn a new career. Maybe I can learn a new skill. Maybe I can learn something new again. I can start making an extra $2,000, $3,000 a month. I always recommend, because I was reading the story about the United States, 1980, late 1800s, early 1900s. 95% of people, they used to have their own businesses.
Yes.
5% of people, they used to work for somebody else. Nowadays, it's the opposite. 95% of people, they work for somebody else. Only 5% of people, they have their own business. So maybe you can have an extra income. Maybe you have that idea. That's something that you had in your heart, that you were good at doing it. And maybe you're good in selling houses. Maybe you want to learn the financial field. Whatever it is, find a new career.
You know what? We are coming up against a break. I need both of you to let me know one thing. How can we reach you? Rodolfo, let's start off with you. How can we reach you if you don't mind?
Well, you can call me. My number is 661-371-0664. 661-371-0664. And of course, you're welcome to come to our financial literacy tour that is going to be this coming Tuesday, July 15 in the Marriott Energy Corridor, 16011 Katy Freeway, Houston, Texas, 77094. It's going to be for free, so you can bring all your friends and family, anybody that you think that you can learn about financial, they want to get better in their financial, get on track with their money. Don't forget, come this coming Tuesday, July, 6:30 p.m.
You can get more information on our website. Elizabeth, how about you?
You can reach me at 832-878-5405. Again, 832-878-5405. I'll be happy to answer your questions and do a complimentary financial strategy for you.
And we have our saying of the day, and it's no different from Teresa Kennedy. Be gentle with your soul today. Yes, you have made mistakes, but you don't have to remind yourself over and over again. Say it one time. You messed up, accept forgiveness, and move forward. So appropriate for what our show was today. Until next time, we are out.
Forward.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is
I'm
Chris is Frank.
I'm
He's
Dean.
Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.